Yo, what's popping? We have the final games of APAC from week one of the Countdown Cup, starting with the Guangzhou Charge against the Shanghai Dragons. Before I get into it, like the video, subscribe for more daily Overwatch League content, comment down below your thoughts, and share this with anyone who you think might be interested. So anyway, the Charge win. Charge win. That's crazy. And they're playing, Jimmy Choi, One, Piggy Cernius, and Farway, with Shanghai playing Fleta, Fate, Lee Shagana, and Izayaki. No surprise, Bebe. No surprise, who are you, unfortunately, for one of them. And they just lose. So Nepal is a 2-1 win for the Charge. They're playing their Zarya, Sojourn, Genji, Lucio Ana for pretty much this entire match. And then Shanghai playing on this point the Sojourn, Mei Ryan, Lucio Bap, but they will go over to the West on the other ones. And they're actually playing the Reinhardt on Sanctuary, not Village, which is really surprising to me. I don't know if this is a read into the Zarya or why, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense because the Charge are happy to give them point because they'll just rotate all around it, set up like it's around them, wait for Jimmy to find a pick, which he does, and then Choi Won goes in and gets the kill, and it keeps happening. That's how they get their 77%. That's the only reason. It's like Charge gives them that because they know they can win the fight if they give them the point. Anytime that Izayaki comes through with the window, they'll just back up, let them take the point, and do it all over again. If there's no pressure like that, they're happy to fight at the doorway because it is still kind of difficult for the round to walk in, even with Fleta on the May. And they end up winning 177. Then we go over to Shrine, and it's 100-0 for Shanghai, just a roll because they're on the Winston comp now, and Jimmy is struggling on the Reaper. He just gets mowed down. He goes to the Sojourn, but it doesn't matter because Shanghai don't give them any space to work with, and Piggy struggles to walk onto them at all. And they just don't build ults. There's no rotation going on for the ultimates. It's just a complete roll for Shanghai here. Then we go to Village, which is 100 to 99 for the Charge, and I have a much easier time approaching them at this point. Still on the Winston, not on the run for this map for some reason. And Jimmy's chunking that Fate really well. And the biggest thing for Shanghai, how they get their 99%, is just Lip is that guy. Lip is crazy. He wins multiple fights out with his overclock, things like that. Fate is getting some value diving in and creating some space for him, but he isn't like really carrying the fights through. And Fleta is pretty non-existent because Farway's doing a great job hitting some crazy sleeps on him, hitting good fates on sleep, hitting good fates on sleep. Yeah, for sure. And then Charge can also just rotate through the Nano Blade and the Graviton, and Jimmy always does a little bit of work in there too. So a pretty good round from Charge there, and they take the first map. Then we go over to King's Road, which is a 3-2 for the Charge, or 3-2 for the Dragons. Sorry, still Zarya against the Winston comp, and Shanghai just kind of roll until they get to C, basically. And from there, it's a lot harder to dive that enemy backline because there's a high ground control with Jimmy up there. They try to take it back with Fleta on the Genji. It doesn't really work. Eventually, Charge kind of push up, and it makes Farway play kind of far forward, and Shanghai Earth can just dive him now. So they do, and they end up actually capping out with that momentum. So I think Charge kind of bring their own downfall there because I see the vision of pushing into the spawn a little bit because you're Piggy, you're high energy, you want to walk on them, which he had been doing that entire round on the C point. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense at this point because the risk reward isn't really there. Then you go over to the Charge offense, and they do a pretty good job actually getting just as fast to C. They just kind of rolled them a bit because they get a pick and Shanghai leave A, and then they nano blade through the choke, and then Piggy gets a grab. So then you use those ultimates, you get through to C, and from there, it's the same kind of thing. It's like Piggy can't walk forward really because he's just beaming a Winston. You can't get to the back line at all, and the flank can't get to the back line at all. So Lip's just on the high ground, pelting down. You can't really control it just with Choi Won because he's getting good resources. Jimmy can kind of help, but it doesn't really work in the end. And Lip just kind of holds it strong, and they don't really push too far forward, and they end up holding out, so they win King's Row. Then we go to Route 66, which is a 2-1 for Shanghai again. Still Zarya against Winston, and Shanghai, they do have a bit of a rough time on the A offense because they get a bad dive. Choice one goes crazy, and it's Big Jimmy coming through, finding good first picks on the back line consistently from multiple different angles. Sometimes he'll be on the gas station, sometimes he'll be flanking through the tunnel, sometimes he'll be on wood, sometimes he'll be coast. He's just finding good angles constantly, and eventually Lip will kill him to stop that from happening, and then Chargers kind of crumble. Again, Lip being that guy for Shanghai, who would have thought? And Shanghai went out, and the Charge recontest, but it doesn't really work. And they continue their momentum through to B. But Charge are able to stabilize at the very end because Nana boosted Piggy with high charges if possible to kill, and Jimmy goes crazy, and then you get Beat Blade to go through because you're running out of time now because you don't have a lot after you have such a struggle in A. So Cho Won wins the fight with the beat. Jimmy overclocks with it to finish it out. He tries to one goes to the Sombra to stop any ultimates coming through, and Shanghai get held at the end of B. However, you are playing Zarya on Route 66, so even though you cap A decently fast because you have choice A1 hitting a B blade with caps. Even though Jimmy was not getting the value from the Reaper, he's on the Reaper now and he's trying to contest the high ground, but just isn't really working. He can bubble up there, but he's not like they're not getting anything from it. They need more from maybe they need more from choice A1. I'm not entirely sure what they need to do, or maybe they need more from Jimmy himself. But it just didn't feel like the value was there. You weren't really denying anything, and you weren't gaining anything. But then you get to B, and you just can't pressure high ground at all. Because as I said, Jimmy's not doing it very well. And even if he was, Lip is playing up on the top house with the backline playing along like a wooden like boardwalk, I would say, kind of thing. So you have to pick one of them every time, and it just never really works out. So yeah, Jimmy doesn't get the value. They don't really get anything. It's very hard for Piggy to walk up because he's walking into the high ground, and they just kind of lose. They fall flat with the Zarya. Then we go to New Queen Street, which is 116 to 63 for the charge. And the Shanghai make a really weird decision here where they don't actually fight Statue, and I kind of understand it because you don't really want to fight into the Zarya, and Zarya can walk into the backline much easier there. But they still just lose because Fate has to contest the point, or he chooses to at least. He dies, and Charge get a lot of good push. And then you get some Nanoblade going, you get an Ajax going, and they push to the checkpoint, and then they keep going deeper and deeper, and like at one point it's like 116 to like it feels like 10 meters for the Charge. And like Shanghai have some resurgence in the overtime because Lip does a lot. But the biggest problem here was they stopped. They didn't get to contest in the point where that would be best for them against the Zarya comp. Right at that checkpoint where you can put Lip on the high ground with his supports, that's where you want it to hold. But unfortunately, whenever Fake goes to contest the checkpoint, he gets domed by Jimmy and he just dies. So they lose the best spot in the entire map for them to hold out, and that's how that's how the Charge get that extra meterage. Now, I don't think Shanghai actually pushed to that point anyway. Maybe they pushed around that point, but it felt like Charge probably would have gotten better anyway. So I don't know. It kind of matters, but it also could not matter. But regardless, it's a big misplay. And the Chargers kind of end up winning. And Zarya, classically has been good on New Queen Street, so it makes sense. And then we get Ilios, and this is not something that you should see. It's 199, 100 to 0 on Ruins for the Charge, and they're still on the Zarya, right? But Shanghai's playing a Sombra, Reaper, Winston, Lucio, Moira. And they're trying to run at the backline, but it does not work out very well. Piggy wins out, and then they switch over to a Genji, Ana, Sojourn kind of thing. And then Lip gets a kill on Piggy early, and you think, oh, that should be the fight win. But actually, Choice A1 is able to turn the fight with a Nano Blade, and he also lives super long, and it's a super long, drawn-out fight. You get 2 fights total on this map. And they live out, Piggy comes back, and the Charge stabilizes, and suddenly it's 100%, and they won. So just, I don't know how Shanghai weren't able to clear out Choice A1 because they kill Piggy. You would think that Fate should just be able to go onto the backline and find kills, but it just doesn't happen because Choice A1's the GOAT, I guess. And then we go over to Well, we get the Charge playing Sombra, Tracer, Winston, Brigana. They switch off Zarya for the first time in the series, and they win. In a mirror composition against the Shanghai Dragons on Winston. That is not normal. The Pigson's actually going crazy. Shanghai just don't have any coordination going on. The backline is split. They're finding easy dive. Eventually, Lip, of course, as he is the GOAT, he hits an EMP to stop the bleeding, and they win some fights. But Charge able to clap back, and it doesn't. I don't know. It's not great. They do get to 99, right? Like Fleta hits a nice stick on the Xerneas, and over time they kind of crumble. And then Lip hits another EMP, but then Choice A1 ends up killing both supports and Fleta in the overtime, and the Charge win in the Winston mirror, and they just win. Map 5 against the Shanghai Dragons was unprecedented, really. And now we go over to the Hangzhou Spark against the Philadelphia Fusion. It ends up being a 3-1 for the Fusion, not a 3-0, surprisingly. But you get Spark playing Shy, Alfie, Gushue, Neko, and Teru, with Philly playing M and 3, Zaz, Bellasaria, Aim God, and Fixa. The only sub would be Fury coming in a little bit for 2 maps, I believe. And Nepal ends up being a 2-0 for the Spark, and honestly, they play pretty all right. So they're both playing Sombra, Tracer, Winston, Brig, Ana. And it's 100 to 99 for the Spark on Sanctuary. And Philly playing very aggressive, and they're denying a lot of space from the Spark as much as they can. But it does leave their backline very susceptible to being dove. This lets Spark trade backlines kind of quicker and winning more often. And that's just how it works. They just trade backlines better. Neko actually does a pretty good job on this specific map, but after that, not so much. But he does do a great job living out on the Brigida. And then Shy hits a massive EMP in overtime, and you would think Philly would actually win the overtime. They had the ult advantage, but because Shy was able to set tempo with that EMP, they weren't able to get the ults out. They end up dying without using them, and Spark cap out 100 to 99. And then we got Shrine, which is 100 to 0. And Fixus oversteps. Neko hits a whip shot, which is huge because he wasn't hitting those. He wasn't hitting those last match. Shy's able to clean up, and then yeah, again Neko living really well in the round. He's letting Spark be more aggressive on the back line and just having them not worry about them as much. They're trading at the backlines better. He's living better. I don't even think he died. He died like one time because he was just getting dope, but he didn't care because he was living through it with rally with however means. There's one moment where he's rallying on the point and Gushway's getting chased down by Bellisria and he's just jumping around from the megas to get a healing because Tiru was dead, and that was really funny. But yeah, pretty damn good looks from the Spark, but it kind of doesn't continue, unfortunately. We go to King's Row where Fury comes in for Bellisria and he's on the Zarya comp. So you get this Sojourn, Genji, Winston, Luciana against Sojourn, Reaper, Zarya, Luciana, I guess. And it's not very pretty. So the weird thing about this Philly composition with the Reaper is that compared to like how Jimmy was playing it, it feels like Zest is actually like the main reason that the composition exists. He's just walking onto the back line, walking onto the front line, wherever he wants to walk, just WM1ing in, and he's getting value no matter what. He's getting great value with the Blossoms, great value with the WM1. And he feels like he's really driving the Philadelphia comp forward, whereas normally in most Zarya comps that you see, it feels like the Zarya is the one that's driving forward, and the Reaper is more of a way to gain energy as well as kind of control the high ground in some capacity. But it doesn't feel like that with the Fusion. Zest actually is the one like propelling them forward. And they get to see really fast through this. But now that Shy is on the high ground and the Spark supports are way too far for Zest to just TP in and kill them, they do get held up for a long time. Eventually, MN3 gets a pick on Alpha E, and Shy is forced to drop from the high ground. And Philly do cap out because once Shy is off of that high ground, it's very easy to just go crazy. But it was very much a struggle on C again, and there's teams just rolling through. Anyway, you go to Spark offense. We get Zest over on the Genji now instead of the Reaper, and Shy is just finding huge opening picks. Alpha and Gushway collapse on the backline together, and Spark just roll through into C. It's great stuff from Shy. And again, Shy still continues on C, but it's just that this time MN3 on the high ground is able to trade back most of those picks, and the Spark struggle to get more value because, again, that dive onto those supports is very difficult to overcome. And Philly are just kind of winning fights without needing to ult too much, and they just kind of win out in the end, despite Shy still getting a lot of picks. We go over to Dorado, which is a 1-0 for Philly, and Bellisria comes back in on the Winston. Then you get Sombra, Tracer, Winston on a Brig Mirror, except not Sombra, and actually Sojourn for the Spark. And on Philly's offense, they get held at A for a while because Spark do that great A high ground. Gushway controlling the space with Alpha E, going for the dives whenever they want to try and dive Shy or the backline, and Shy is just clicking heads as he does, and Philly can't seem to win no matter which group they target. Either the backline gets rolled by the dive or the team just gets picked off by Shy. Eventually, they slowly are able to push the cart through the choke bit by bit. Like I'm talking like 3 minutes into the round, and they can finally ignore the high ground as much as they can, and they can win out through in that courtyard. So they do get through A, and they get through B quite a bit as well. But then Shy is holding strong on the background, on the back of the high ground on B, and Teru's hitting good sleeps on the dive, and Spark just kind of hold out. Again, off the back of Shy and Teru, once again, being pretty noticeable. Then we go over to Sparks offense. It doesn't matter that they had a pretty good one. This is 1-0. I don't think it was a 1-0. This is a lie. It was a 2-1. Sorry, I'm going to have to get my keyboard. Anyway, Sparks on the offense. So Philly defense even better. And they just full commit with the dive this time. They're not playing the Sojourn, just straight up Sombra Tracer, just diving him. Shy doesn't have the space to find the shots, and suddenly Shy's not doing anything, so Spark aren't doing things. Spark are able to push through that choke a bit, surely but surely, kind of similar to Philly, but instead they don't actually win out in the courtyard, and Philly just kind of kite back, go back in, and Spark don't even trigger overtime. They just lose Dorado. 2-0. It's a 2-0. Oh, no, it is a 1-0. I'm crazy. It is a 1-0. Bad. Then we got Coliseum, which is 120-12 for Philly. Legit 10 times better. And Fury comes back in for Bellisria. We get the Reaper Zarya again, and it's actually quite interesting because for the first 6 minutes, it's like 30-10 is the score line, like probably 30-12, and no one's really getting any traction. The teams are just trying to trading out kills, but it still feels like Philly's on the front foot because Spark aren't really winning fights. They're just not losing them. They're not outright losing them. They do have pushback, but it's like Philly fighting back, waiting for people, and going back in. And eventually, right, Zest breaks through, ends up walking onto the back line, and from there, it's just a roll. They win one fight, and suddenly they win two, they win three, they win four, and now they're in their spawn. And it's still spearheaded by Zest on the Reaper, which is kind of unlike any other Zarya composition we've seen so far, at this stage at least. And they just kind of win because Zest is going crazy. He hits a nice double kill solo flank with the Blossom on the back line. I don't know. He's a different beast on the Reaper, it seems. But yeah, so those are the matches today. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you like, subscribe for more daily Overwatch League content, and deuces.